Those are the first images of the Indian Vikram lander on the surface of the moon. These are the first images that have come post that historic landing. You can see the leg of the Vikram lander, and that surface, mind you, is the lunar surface, and for the very first time, any lander has landed on the south pole of the moon. This has been a historic landing because this has never been achieved before. This is a tricky terrain and one of the trickiest landings, and especially a soft landing to manage, which is why this mission, as was the previous Chandrayaan 2 mission, fraught with danger. This is why nobody has been able to do this before, and this is why this is going to be an extremely important development, as the Prime Minister said, not just for India but for the entire world. The first images are with us. My colleague Harish is also joining us. Harish, we're looking at the surface of the moon, but the first time, the South Pole.
Absolutely, and these are the first set of images that have come back from the lander. As you rightly mentioned, you can see the legs of the lander. This is just a few minutes post-landing that this photo has been clicked. The other aspect to note here is if you look at the surface of the moon, remember this is the near vicinity of the lander, and it's very clear that it's a challenging terrain that we're talking about, not a flat surface at all. And here the next challenge begins for the rover to slowly roll out and start the experiments. But these are the kind of images and a lot more data that will come in the next 14 days or so once the scientific experiments begin in the next few hours. This is the first image perhaps taken from one of the cameras that are part or that's on board the lander. Here one information that we're yet to know is whether this was from a LDV camera or a hazard avoidance camera or other cameras that were part of the experiment. That's something that ISRO perhaps will put out in the next few hours.
And Harish, what is the timeline like now? How soon do we see the panel of the lander opening up and the rover descending and actually stepping onto the surface of the moon?
Well, that would take anywhere 2 to 4 hours from the time of landing. It depends on the sensors and the cameras that are on the lander. They will look at the surface, near surface of the lander to see if the lunar dust that might have been kicked up because of this landing and the propulsion there has settled down. Once that confirmation is given to ISRO, that's when they will start the process of lowering almost ramp kind of equipment from the lander, and then the rover will roll out. Even the rover, remember, will scan the surface even as it's rolling out of the lander.
And are we expected to get some, continuous stream updates from ISRO of these images as well, Harish? Because today the entire country was glued to the streaming that ISRO was doing. So what happens from here on, and how do they keep all of us updated?
Well, in fact, there are two sets of information that ISRO will now deal with. One, which they believe they can put out immediately, but there will be larger data sets that will come in, the images that will come in, which will need further analysis. And perhaps once ISRO has some concrete information, or if they have derived any sort of a scientific conclusion, those are the set of images that perhaps will come in the due course of time. And if there is a larger announcement or a bigger find, perhaps ISRO would want multiple confirmations before they make that public. But these kind of images, the first set of it, perhaps will keep coming over the next few days.
Yes, of course, we're all waiting to see what the rover also clicks. And if we can get the image of the rover from the lander, Harish, isn't it, after it moves out from the belly of the lander. But you were in the thick of things, Harish. You spoke first and exclusively with S. Somnath, the ISRO chief. Can you just describe what it was like today, the entire evening?
Well, remember, before I come to Somnath interview, one of the major images all of us are waiting for is that image of ISRO's logo being imprinted on the surface of moon, and also the Ashoka Chakra. That's something we'll wait for the next perhaps couple of days that might come out. Remember, we spoke to Somnath, he's upbeat, and already ISRO has set its eyes on bigger challenges. We're talking about Mars. ISRO has carried out a successful Mars orbiter mission. If they want to put a spacecraft there, that would be the next challenge for them, or an opportunity. Also, Venus is something that the Prime Minister has mentioned, and ISRO saying a lot of it is already under works. We are talking about Aditya L1 mission that is ready to take off. It's set to take off somewhere in September first week. It's a busy year for ISRO. There is Gaganyaan. We have the NISAR project, which is a joint venture with NASA. Another major scientific breakthrough expected from that. So a busy year for NASA, and perhaps this is the beginning of it.
All right. My colleague Harish Upadhyay bringing us first and exclusively those images, the first set of those images, the first image in fact that has come, that has been taken from the Vikram lander. One of its legs can actually be seen and that is the surface of the moon, the first image that has been clicked by it, and that surface is important because that's the first time any country has managed this soft landing on that side of the moon, the far side of the moon, which is the South Pole. So far humanity had not touched this side of the moon.